What paranormal things did you experience in your childhood? Serious. My dad's great aunt died when I was 11 years old, and we inherited 100 plus years worth of random family treasures and mementos and a ghost. She was friendly and told me to call her auntie. Her portrait was hung in the hallway along with the other creepy old, but she asked me if I would find the younger portrait of her and display it somewhere instead. I told my dad about her and he humored me because I was an eccentric kid and it was just easier. That way, we looked through a few of the boxes and did not find Auntie's photo. I was disappointed, but I chose another of her and placed it outside my bedroom door. For years I thought I was just crazy. I mostly forgot about Auntie unless I was visiting my parents. A few years ago I was visiting for Christmas and I was compelled to go up into the attic for the portraits. I was hearing a voice in the back of my head and it was very serious. Go get the portraits out of the attic and take them home with you. Take as many as you can carry and bring the rest down from the attic. Do it today. Do it now. I did not have room in my apartment for that many photos, but I felt as though I was literally being pulled towards them. I do enjoy history, so I used that as an excuse, taking as many homes as I could. It took a long time to sort through so many antique photos and albums, but when I reached the bottom of one of the boxes there was Aunt Jane's. Look closely and you will see that it says Aunt Jane on the back. I knew before I even read it. This freaked me out so much that I could barely cope, but that wasn't all. The following summer a tornado hit my parents' house and picked the roof up off the attic. It wasn't entirely destroyed. That would, however, make for a more compelling story, but if the photos had been left up there they wouldn't have fared as well as they did. Come home with me. TLDR, ghost told me to find her portrait in my parents' attic when I was a child. Failed to find it then, but found it 20 years later. It had her name written on the back. See the photo. My sister and I were playing with an Ouija board, asking the all-important questions about boys we liked, etc. My father was in the room and scoffed that one of us was moving the planchette, the thing to spell out answers. So he asked us a question that we couldn't know about. The answer to ask it what is Stubbs' middle name. We had a family friend who lived in another state, and although his given name was Robert, everyone called him Stubb as little kids. We wouldn't have known his middle name. We asked and the planchette spelled out E-M-I-L. Smile was the right answer. My father made us immediately throw out the Ouija board. I was about 9 years old, playing with some Star Trek action figures in my bedroom. Yes, I was a cool kid. My room was positioned directly above a guest room, which was almost never used, and I almost never entered. The furniture was outdated compared to the rest of the house, and it just had a creepy vibe. This will be relevant later. I had a Spock action figure which broke apart easily. His shirt would snap into two pieces by pressing on the seam, and then all his limbs would fall off. He was easy to repair, so I took him apart often. He'd be used for body parts if I wanted to pretend someone had been killed by an alien. One day, just as I had set up a decidedly gruesome Star Trek scene, my mom called me down for dinner. When I came back upstairs after eating, I noticed that Spock was gone, just him, though all the other action figures were still in a little circle exactly as I left them. I searched that night before bed, thinking about my younger brother. My only sibling, who was 2 years old at the time, may have somehow gotten into my room and moved my stuff. It had never happened before, but it was all I could think of. The whole family was at dinner and there was no chance for anyone to go upstairs and move anything. The next morning I searched the house for Spock. Nothing, not put away, not in my brother's room, not in the living room. It was baffling. As a last-ditch effort I decided to check the guest room. The room looked untouched as usual, except for one thing: a dismantled Spock action figure in the exact same position as I had left it in my room the night prior, directly below where I had been playing with him in my bedroom. I asked my mom and dad. They claimed to know nothing about it. My younger brother could not have made it down the stairs and also would not have been able to make the same Spock pile that I had made the previous night. It was as if my toy had just translated a few feet in the Z direction, right through the floor. I still don't have an explanation. I woke up and saw Shadow Man run, then jump at me while I was in bed. I was so struck with fear I was unable to move, but he disappeared right before he landed. The memory was so terrifying I still remembered it nearly 30 years later. I only recently, like a month ago, discovered that this was a sleep paralysis demon. Edit so many grammar fixes. My dad's house is built where the original house was flattened in a tornado. I slept upstairs. Next to my bed was a vet that you could see down into the basement if you looked over the edge of the bed. Sometimes I would wake up at like 3 am. I'd look down and see the light was on in the basement. It lights unfinished in the basement. Although bedrooms are on the main level, I did go to the bathroom and the light in the basement would have turned off could be in my head. Right, same house, I had a lamp that would flash sometimes. It's a touch lamp, so maybe it had issues, but it was a 3 brightness setting lamp each touch. It would get brighter until the 4th touch, it would turn off. I couldn't even get the light to just flash once and turn off. No matter how fast I tapped, it would take a second to register the next touch, so about 3 to 4 seconds to rifle through the 3 light settings to the off setting. It only flashed at night, to one night that really convinced me I wasn't imagining at all. My big stereo system, when turned on, would always start at a low sound level even if you had it cranked up when you shut it off. About 3 in one night, the stereo turned on full volume while I was sound asleep. It was so loud it woke everyone up in the house. They came to my room and was like, "WF was that?" After I woke up in total fear, waking up to that loud radio to total darkness was a fear I never felt before and haven't felt since that. The house was haunted, I think. When I was 11, I was staying with some friends at their cabin deep in the woods, in the middle of rural nowhere, like literally not another house for miles. We were playing soccer and my friend yelled and pointed to the trees behind the yard, and we all saw a man standing. There was a dirty brown shirt and jeans who walked towards us and vanished behind a tree. We screamed for their dad and he came running out to see what was wrong and told us to go inside while he looked around. He found nothing, but we didn't want to go outside and play again. Later that night, we had pretty much calmed down and were watching TV in their living room, which had big glass sliding doors facing the forest, when their dog started growling and barking at something outside the glass doors. He hadn't acted like this before, so we called their dad again, and he went outside through the doors and found nothing again, but the dog wouldn't stop barking until a few minutes later. I have no idea what the beep we saw, but I never went up with them again. I remember it so clearly. I would lose stuff completely inexplicably and get in trouble. My parents would tell me to find them, or else I would get punished. Then just before I got punished, I would randomly find those things in paranormal ways. For example, I would lose my scissors and then there would be a sudden loud noise in the kitchen of pots and pans falling down. I would go investigate the kitchen and open the cupboard to find none of the pots being tipped over, and among the pots would be my scissors. Bizarre. My mom mentioned this to the wife of our pastor, who said that it was most likely an evil spirit that was trying to win my favor. The prayer group played for me and this phenomenon stopped. I stopped inexplicably losing things, and the weird reappearance if those things also stopped. I found a block of wood in the woods behind my grandparents' house. As a kid, it had been imprinted with a license, the plate that read SXV 4872. I remember making up a story where the license plate number was a secret code, so I remembered it for years after. A few years later, my parents got new license plates and one of them was SXV 4872. Not sure if it's paranormal, but it spooked me big time as a kid, and I have no explanation for it now. May your day be filled with joy and happiness. The subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more things you don't want to know. Let us know in the comments what you think about these stories.